Hi, welcome to the Sculpture Studio. I'm excited about your choice today. This is going to be kind of fun. Just a few reminders on sculpture. Sculpture is three-dimensional. Sculpture takes up space. Sculpture can be seen from all sides. And as an artist, you want to make it look interesting from all sides. You want what the viewer sees to change a little bit as you move from side to side. And you want your sculpture to be interesting. Which brings us to your challenge for the day. Your challenge today is to come up with a sculpture that is abstract. Now, think back to what we just said on the carpet. Abstract means it starts out as something real. The idea is connected to a real thing, but the sculpture itself becomes an abstraction. It is the artist taking something real and changing it, making it even more interesting, creatively stretching, breaking, pulling, morphing, something to make it not exactly real, but you still kind of get the idea. For example, this sculpture was done by some third graders in our school, Minjay and Victor, and it's hard to see against my dark sweater. Let me get out of the way. I believe that if they were to give this sculpture a title, they would call it The City. And I think when they started working, they were talking about this representing buildings and places, and it's a very cool collection of shapes that when you turn it, look at it from other sides, still feels like a city, but it's got really a lot of ways to interpret it. Okay, so that's one idea. You can start with something real, like a city, and then sculpt in a way that's kind of like it. Another thing you can do is start with a more bendable material, and again, you can not just take the materials like they are, like these tubes that Victor and Minjay were using, but you might take a material that you could shape yourself. Like you could use wire, you could use cardboard, you could use pieces of wood and cut them. But let's see, if I were just to take this cardboard and experiment with folding, I have an idea in mind that is real. It is something you see every day. It is something you use in our building. And I'm going to use it as the inspiration for a sculpture that's interesting to look at. Now, those of you who are paying attention to how I'm folding this cardboard probably already have a clue as to what has inspired my sculpture. You use it every day. Well, at least if you want to get back to your classroom, you do. So, I need this. That's not as interesting as I want. I want it to still kind of resemble the real thing. But I also want it to be interesting to look at. Ooh, look when I turn that. That's kind of cool. I'm going to need to support this somehow, so I might end up gluing some already made tubes into place. I might create different sizes, different strips that are skinny and fat, just to add some interest and change things around. So, do you know yet what the real thing is that I am abstracting? I am making an abstract sculpture of the steps. We use them all the time, but we don't really think of them as being interesting sculptures. We just think of them as a tool to get from one floor to the next. But an artist might notice the part of the steps that goes this way and that way and this way as just interesting, an interesting use of space. Alright, so now I have a second one that might, I could cut, I don't have scissors ready, but I could cut this and link it to this one. Maybe this one holds up this one. Well, you get the idea. I could keep building an abstract sculpture that is connected to an idea that's real. Alright, that's starting with an idea and making something that looks sort of like it. The other way to go is to make a really interesting shape and then decide what it looks like. Like, if you take a wire hanger, I don't know if you've ever seen this done before. I don't even think you've seen my muscles like this before. But if I just start bending, and I'm not doing it any way in particular on purpose, but I want to make it kind of unusual. Anywhere I can, I'm making it twist. I don't know. It's a start. Can you see my sculpture that goes that way? I can do any number of ways to make it more interesting. Let me bend this way so I can hang it. There we go. All right, so I could go back to the cardboard idea and connect things to my wire. But there's also, I've seen an artist do this before, where you take something stretchy like a stocking, or in this case I just have a pair of socks ready to go from our puppet studio. Actually, I borrowed them. Whoa, this one's kind of tight. I might have to find some that aren't quite so tight before you start working. But take a look. As I stretch this cloth over the hanger, I get a really interesting shape. I wonder if I could separate it back out farther. I could. Not necessarily the most interesting color, but what could it look like? What does it resemble to you? Ooh, that direction is kind of cool. But maybe after I get the shape in an interesting way and I say, you know what, it makes me think of a giant potato chip. I might then paint on top of this. I might make some of the parts change color. I might make some of the parts really dark and mysterious and other parts really bright. I might keep stretching my sock to see what else happens. Ooh, kind of fish-like there. I could actually paint an eyeball and some scales. Manta ray, maybe? I don't know. So, you get the idea, I'm sure. You can either start with something real and abstract it, or you can start with an abstract shape and try to connect it with your imagination to something real. I think that's all you need to know to get started. Remember to check your green card on getting set up and getting the right tools. Everything you need should be right here by your shelves. If you have a question or need me to come see what you're working on, need a conference, remember to hit the poll and put your name up there so that I know you're waiting for me. And after that, just go for it. Come up with something clever to show that you understand that abstract is connected to something real, but you've added your creative touch to it.